Hi, I'm Hugh from SRI, and today we would like to show you how to potentially repair one of the electronic pressure controllers. So the electronic pressure controllers are located inside the GC, and typically there's more than one, but not always. Sometimes there is just one for carrier gas. But if you have a flame ionization detector, for example, there might be a hydrogen EPC and an air EPC. The air EPC is the one that seems to fail the most because it's subject to particles clogging the internal orifice of the electronic pressure controller. So in many cases it's easier just to replace the entire electronic pressure controller. They're about $500 as of September 2022, which is expensive, and sometimes you can fix them, so it might be worthwhile to try fixing them, because usually what goes wrong is that the little hole inside is clogged with something, and that's why it doesn't work. It's got nothing to do with any electronic thing. It's just goo or something that's clogging the little hole inside. So this is what the EPC looks like after you take it out, right? So there's another video on this series that shows you how to remove the EPC and replace it. So this is what it looks like when you remove it. The EPC consists of a manifold, which is this brass thing that has the place for the gas to be connected and also the place for the sensor to be connected. So I've removed the sensor, and it's really just now what we call the solenoid. It's called a proportional solenoid, and then the manifold. We have to remove the proportional solenoid from the manifold. There's two screws. They're 7/16ths, 7/64ths, correct that, 7/64ths. A hex wrench is what you need. So you loosen the screws. It's good to loosen them roughly an equal amount, but once they're completely loose, you can just loosen them as fast as you want. And then this is what the EPC looks like. There's two little brown O-rings in a brass kind of a thingamabob, right? So the hole is at the bottom of that brass thingamabob. So it's to get it out, you need some kind of a tube, a 16th inch tube. You can use a 16th inch drill bit. That's what we typically use, right? So you stick the two 16th inch drill bits in there. Let's see if that, yeah, they should go in. And then you can turn this brass thing. If you're careful, you can, sometimes it's hard to get it to go. You might have to put it in a vise, or you might have to have somebody hold it, but then you can turn this and the brass part unscrews. It's tight, but you can do it. Okay, so then the brass part comes out, and what's in the rest of the solenoid is just a little rubber kind of a surface that the magnet attracts, and a spring, right? So the rubber surface sits on top of this little hole. So it's a tiny little hole. I'm going to use a syringe needle or something to poke through this hole, right? So if I take a syringe needle, even the syringe needle's too big. I need a smaller syringe needle. I think this is a 27 gauge syringe needle. See if I can get through it from this side. So I can see through it now, right? So whatever I did, I unplugged that tiny little hole. It's not very big. It's only a few thousandths of an inch, maybe 15 thousandths, something like that. So, but that's where the particles collect, and that's what blocks the flow of gas in the EPC. So now I can just put it back together. So when I put it back in, we are working against a little bit of spring pressure. So I find it easiest to kind of push down with my thumb while turning it until I feel that I've caught the threads. And then, of course, you can use the drill bits to give yourself some purchase and tighten it up as much as you can with your fingers. And then you need to tighten it up pretty tight. So grab the drill bits down toward the base so that they don't slip, and then tighten it up until you can feel that it's really as tight as it's going to get without damaging it. And then you pull it out, and with any luck, you've probably got a 50% chance of success. But it's up to you, because it's pretty simple to do. to save the $500 that it costs to replace the EPC. So hopefully that'll solve the problem for you. When you put this back together, it's important that you get it on there evenly, right? Because there's two rubber O-rings that sit on top of that manifold, and that's what seals against the gas. So when you tighten it up, you want to tighten it up so that it's not too tight on one end, so the gap is basically between the solenoid and the manifold should be an even gap, right? So when you tighten up the screws, tighten them up kind of equally. See here, I've got this one. This one's too tight, so the EPC is kind of tilted. So I'm going to loosen that one just a tad, and then tighten this one so that I can see that the gap is even around the whole thing. And then when it is, then you tighten it up nice and tight, but checking to make sure that it's evenly level with the manifold. And then you put it back in the GC. So hopefully this will help solve some problems, and if not, then you just have to replace the EPC. Thank you so much.